Hello everyone, and welcome to RetroLinear. Without further ado, here's a comprehensive installation video for our Warneck Research EP200 Amplifier kit, including reed bar shields, Varivib variable speed vibrato, transformer line shielding tube, and our WR-OB1 output board. Be sure to watch this video thoroughly before attempting installation. Make sure your piano is unplugged from the wall and to have proper tools outlined in the video. You are attempting this installation at your own risk, and the assumption has been made you have basic hand tool knowledge and skills. For additional support, please visit our support forum at www.retrolinear.net or email support@retrolinear.com. Here are the following tools required to install your Warneck Research EP200 Amplifier, Varivib, and AC Shield kit. Safety glasses, number 2 Phillips screwdriver, slot head screwdriver, 6-in-1 screwdriver, small jeweler's screwdriver with slotted head, 1/2-inch hollow nut driver, 11/32 hollow nut driver, wire stripper, small diagonal wire cutter, small needle nose pliers, locking clamp pliers, a hammer, caliper, razor blade, flat scraper, dental pick, Sharpie, large step bit or unibit, 3/16 drill bit, 1/8 drill bit, countersink, drift or center punch, deburring tool. Organization box, clear epoxy, clear silicone or RTV, a towel, blue tape, zip ties, and a power drill. Let's open your Wurlitzer. Using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, remove the 2 music rack screws. Pull the volume and vibrato knobs off. Remove the 3 key slip screws underneath the piano. Place all screws and knobs in your organization bin. The lid is now ready to lift off. Using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, remove all screws holding the reed bar cover and place them in your organization bin. This will expose the piano's damper assembly. With all the screws removed, you can carefully remove the reed bar cover. We will now separate the damper mechanisms. Carefully hold each damper arm while pressing the screw and rubber bushing away from the small metal clip which it sits in. Be sure not to bend or break these mechanisms as they are quite delicate. Remove the center screw holding the damper brackets together. There's a small lock nut on the inside. Make sure this doesn't go missing. Place all parts in your organization bin. Separate the sustain pull mechanism from the damper assembly. Be sure not to misplace the felt washer. Using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, remove the left and right damper brackets located on the piano's reed bar. With the brackets removed, we can now remove both dampers from the piano. Starting at the treble register, remove the 2 middle screws, then put aside both flat washers. Reinsert both screws back into the pickup. Do not fully tighten. Remove both end screws and washers. Place the reed bar shield over the pickup. Insert the screws on each end and fully tighten. Remove the middle 2 screws and replace the flat washers, and then tighten fully. This procedure prevents shifting of the pickups. Remove the 2 screws holding the next pickup section down. Place the middle section rebar shield atop the pickup. Be careful not to dislodge the pickup. Insert both screws and tighten. Remove the number 2 and number 3 screws and washers. Then replace both the number 2 and number 3 screw without the washer. Then remove the screws and washers on 1, 4, and 6. Place the base reed bar shield onto the pickup. Insert screws 1, 4, and 6. Tighten. Then replace the washers on number 2 and 3. Then tighten all screws snugly. If you purchase one of our new pickup cables, here's how to install it. Unplug the old RC cable off the original amplifier, and using a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver, remove the screws holding each terminal lug to the reed bars. Note the additional ground wire. This is to be left in place. Replace the screws into the new cable as shown. This step is now complete. We'll now reinstall the damper assemblies. Place the guide pin of the base damper into the center bushing as shown. Fully seat the pin into the nylon bushing. Replace the damper end bracket as shown. Place the treble damper assembly onto the center pin as shown. Squeeze the 2 damper assemblies together. Replace the remaining end brackets as shown. Connecting the dampers. Using the clamping or needle nose pliers, place the lock nut inside the damper housing. The ground wire connects through the screw as shown. We'll now reconnect the sustain pull mechanism. Note, the felt washer sits between the metal tab on the sustain pull and the housing itself. Reseat the damper pulls onto each damper mechanism. The rubber bushing seats into the damper clip. Take your time completing the step and be careful not to bend or twist the damper pulls, as they are quite fragile. We shall now reinstall the rebar cover. Replace the mounting screws into the rebar face. These screws will only require a few turns at this stage. Be sure to leave sufficient vertical height to avoid damper collision with the rebar cover itself. Using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, remove the 4 screws which secure the piano's amplifier rail. The amplifier rail can now be lifted away from the piano. Let's cut the volume and vibrato control wires off the original amplifier. Then we're going to cut the speaker and transformer wires as well. Cut as close as possible to the circuit board to leave working slack. Using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, remove the 7 mounting screws. Put these screws aside as they will be reused to mount the new amp. Lift the old amp away. With the old amplifier removed, we can now install the AC shield tube. Unscrew the transformer. Use a razor blade to carefully cut through the tape layers holding the transformer wires together. Follow the leads all the way down to the fuse terminal strip. Cut the transformer leads off the terminal strip. Unscrew the terminal strip to free the remaining transformer wire. Draw a straight line on the fiber circuit board insulator, using a razor blade to cut through this, leaving enough space for the shielding tube to sit flush against the amplifier rail. We can now mark where to drill the mounting holes for the grounding tube. Lay the tube along the back rail as shown. Place the mounting clips onto the tube. Note the spacing left to right shown, allowing ample space for the amplifier board. We'll mark the amp rail with a Sharpie. Remember to wear your safety glasses whenever drilling or using any power tools. Then drill 3 16-inch through holes into the amplifier rail. To clean any sharp edges remaining, use a deburring tool, larger drill bit, or a countersink bit. You can also use a center punch and hammer. This can make drilling easier. Be sure to clean up all metal flakes. Feed the transformer wires through the AC shielding tube. Lay a bead of RTV silicone along the path where the tube will sit. This is to prevent unwanted vibration and noise in the piano. Spread the RTV around to get even coverage. Pro tip: cover your finger with some tape or wear gloves to avoid skin contact. Remount the transformer. Seat the tube into the line of RTV silicone. Secure the mounting clips with a Phillips screwdriver and 11/32 inch nut driver or socket. Wipe away any excess RTV overflow. Let's temporarily screw the terminal strip down. We will now resolder both transformer leads onto the outer terminals. Polarity is not important, as both wires are the same. Each wire connects to the outer terminals on the strip. Tug on the connection after it's cooled to verify all wires are fully soldered. Needle nose pliers make quick work to remove any old fragments of wire stuck in the terminal. After soldering is complete, replace the wire clip. Using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, let's mount your new amplifier onto the rail, reusing the original screws. Make sure your screws are tight. In the event your screws have gone missing, the correct size is 6/32 by 1/2 inch, with internal tooth lock washers or SEM style screws. Using a small slotted jeweler screwdriver, we can connect the transformer, speaker, line out, volume, and vibrato controls. All wires require roughly 1/8 inch of jacketing removed for an ideal connection. Before powering on the amplifier, double check that all wires are properly connected to the respective locations, especially the transformer. Also, visually check to make sure there are no individual strands of wire that are jumping from one location to another. If possible, tinning the wire is advised, however not necessary. After the connections are made, dress the wires as shown. This step only applies if you purchase the optional output board. Using diagonal wire cutters, snip the speaker and line out leads as close as possible to the solder joints. This is done to leave working slack. Use a number 2 Phillips screwdriver and remove the terminal strip mounting screws. Use a 1/2 inch socket or nut driver to remove the original headphone and line out jacks. Connect the line out and speaker wires to their respective locations. Please reference the install document for correct speaker wiring. Remount the output board box. Note, the original terminal strip is no longer necessary. We can mount the new output board using a 1/2 inch socket or nut driver. Be sure to not over tighten the mounting nuts, as the threads are plastic. Lock washers are not necessary in this location. Installing the Varivib variable speed vibrato. Use the small diagonal cutters and remove the resistor labeled R-opt. Loosen the nuts, holding the volume and vibrato pot. Do not remove the nuts and washers, just back them out as much as possible. The Varivib bracket mounts between the volume and vibrato pots in the amp rail. Note, the small tabs on both pots sit in the bracket. Tighten both nuts firmly. Make sure the bracket is sitting level with the rail. Trim the black, red, and white wire to length. Strip 1/8 jacketing from each lead. We'll now solder each wire to its respective location on the circuit board. We suggest using 6337 composition solder. Remove the old faceplate. Using a scraper, get as much of the old residue off as possible. It is not advisable to use solvents as they can damage the finish on the piano's lid. Using the new faceplate as a template, mark the third hole position. Using the unibit, drill a large hole as shown. Insert the new jewel into the faceplate. Use a small nut driver or the 1/4 inch drive of your 6-in-1 to seat the mounting clip. Now we're going to use the calipers as a depth gauge to get the faceplate installed nice and straight. Most Wurlitzer faceplates sit down around 1/2 inch from the edge of the music rack lip, as seen here. We'll place the caliper against the edge and set the depth right up to the original line of the adhesive. Tighten the locking screw on the caliper, and then place blue painter's tape on the ends and in the middle of the faceplate. Place the faceplate onto the lid, eye up the centering to the original glue lines. We can adjust the vertical alignment as shown. Lift up the tape and pull the faceplate onto the base of the caliper while holding the caliper against the lip. We will repeat this process at the opposing end of the faceplate. This will align the faceplate perfectly on your lid. With the location set, add an additional strip of tape firmly to seat the tape. Flip the faceplate upwards and thoroughly mix the epoxy and spread around. Plastic knives or a popsicle stick work great for spreading an even thin coat. For the purposes of illustration, we've used white epoxy to demonstrate how much glue to use. Use of clear epoxy is recommended. Be sure to wipe any excess epoxy away while it's still workable. With a thin layer of epoxy applied, seat the faceplate and lightly press it into the adhesive. Allow 1 to 2 hours of curing time before removing the tape. We can now reinstall the amplifier rail. Connect the RCA Pickup cable. Insert the 4 amp rail mounting screws with your number 2 Phillips screwdriver. Close up your piano, plug in, and enjoy. Thank you for watching this instructional video from RetroLinear, and have a great day.